Part 1. The map in Daniel's pocket. Daniel Reeves had been stuck for years. Not in a prison cell, but in something far worse. The quiet, invisible cage of drifting through life. He worked a job he didn't love, scrolled his phone late into the night, and told himself that one day he'd write that book, start that business, or take that trip. But one day never came. Then, one cold February morning, as he sat in a small-town coffee shop staring into a half-empty cup, an old man took the seat across from him. The stranger wore a weathered hat, the kind you might find in a trunk in your grandfather's attic. His eyes were bright, almost too alive for his age. He introduced himself simply as Mr. Carter. "You look," Mr. Carter said, "like a ship without a compass." Daniel forced a smile. "I guess you could say that." Mr. Carter leaned forward. "You think life changes when you get lucky or when inspiration strikes. But that's not true. Real change comes from systems, small, steady actions that don't care whether you feel motivated or not." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Systems?" The old man nodded. "I'll tell you a story." "Knowing where you're going. When I was your age," Mr. Carter began, "I worked in a factory. 12 hours a day, grease on my hands, back aching. Most people there just showed up and did their time. No real plan. But I had to one day own my own shop, where I could fix machines my way. Now, I didn't know how it would happen. I had no investors, no fancy education. But I knew exactly where I was going, like a sailor holding a map in a storm." Daniel leaned in as the old man continued. "You see, most folks think they can just start walking and the right path will appear. But if you don't know the destination, you might end up miles from where you want to be. Life without direction is like a ship without a compass. You drift wherever the wind takes you, and sometimes, the rocks are closer than you think." The Edwin C. Barnes lesson. Mr. Carter's voice dropped, as if sharing a secret. "Ever hear of Edwin C. Barnes?" Daniel shook his head. He decided, mind you, that he was going to work with Thomas Edison. Didn't know the man. Had no money. But he held that vision until it was as real as the ground under his feet. He took a humble job just to get in the same building as Edison. Over time, he proved himself, and eventually became Edison's business partner. Barnes didn't drift. He didn't wait and see. He aimed at a target and moved toward it every single day. Mr. Carter took a sip of his coffee. "When you know where you're going, obstacles become puzzles to solve, not reasons to quit. And when opportunity shows up, and it will, you recognize it because it's pointing toward your mountain." "Choosing your mountain," Daniel frowned. "But what if I pick the wrong goal?" The old man chuckled. "People think choosing one direction means locking every other door forever. Not true. It's just choosing which mountain to climb first. From the summit, you can always see new peaks. But you can't see anything if you never leave the valley." He tapped the table for emphasis. "Your job right now is to stop staring at all the mountains and start climbing one. Making good habits automatic." Mr. Carter leaned back. "Now, once you know your mountain, you need habits that carry you toward it, even on days you feel tired, lazy, or discouraged. Willpower alone won't carry you. It's like a muscle, it gets tired. But habits? They carry you when motivation runs out." He told Daniel about a friend who wanted to write a novel. At first, the man wrote only when he felt inspired, which meant progress was painfully slow. Then he decided to write 500 words every morning, no matter what. It didn't take long before he didn't have to think about it, Mr. Carter said. It was as automatic as brushing his teeth. "Start smaller than you think. Here's the secret," the old man said. "Start so small it feels silly. Want to run every day? Start by putting on your running shoes each morning. Want to eat better? Start with 1 glass of water when you wake up. It's like carving a canyon, not with one massive flood, but with a steady river over years." He explained, habit stacking, connecting a new habit to something you already do. If you drink coffee every morning, read a page of a good book while it cools. If you make your bed, stretch right after. Small, steady actions. That's the Napoleon Hill way. Shaping your surroundings, Mr. Carter glanced around the coffee shop. And here's the part most people miss. Your surroundings shape you more than you realize. If you want to eat better, keep fresh fruit on the counter and get rid of the junk food in your cabinets. If you want to read more, keep a book on the table instead of your phone. Make the good choice the easy choice. He told Daniel about a woman he knew who struggled with overspending. When she started spending time with friends who valued simple living and stopped visiting places that tempted her, her habits changed almost without effort. Your environment is a silent teacher, Mr. Carter said. It whispers suggestions all day long. You can choose whether those whispers pull you forward or drag you down. The challenge the old man stood, dropping a few bills on the table. Daniel, I'll leave you with this. Tonight I want you to write down exactly where you're going. Not a vague dream. A real, clear target. Then pick one small habit you can do every day to move toward it. And look around your life. Change one thing in your environment to make that habit easier. He tipped his hat. Systems, habits, surroundings. That's your compass. Follow it, and one day you'll wake up in a place you chose, not one you stumbled into. As Mr. Carter walked out into the cold morning, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years. A spark. A quiet voice inside him said, "Maybe I do know which mountain to climb." And for the first time, he took a step. Part 2. The Garden and the Storm. Daniel didn't expect to see Mr. Carter again. After their first meeting in the coffee shop, he'd gone home, pulled out an old notebook, and written down his mountain, the clear destination the old man had told him to choose. His choice surprised him: become a professional speaker and help people break free from the same drifting life he'd been living. For a week, Daniel stuck to the small habit he'd chosen. Each morning, he read a page from a book about public speaking while drinking his coffee. It felt good, almost too easy. Then, one Saturday morning, as he walked through the farmer's market downtown, he heard a familiar voice call out, "Reeves! Still climbing your mountain?" It was Mr. Carter, holding a basket of apples. Without waiting for an answer, the old man said, "Good. Now we need to talk about the garden you're planting that mountain in." The soil around the seed. They found a bench under a tree. Mr. Carter bit into an apple and said, "Your habits are the seeds of your future. But seeds can only grow if the soil is right, and that soil is your surroundings." The answer to why most people fail isn't in their character, it's in their environment. Daniel frowned. "You mean my apartment? My desk?" "That and the people in your life," Mr. Carter said. "Objects shape behavior, yes. But people? They shape it even more. Spend time with complainers, and you'll complain more. Surround yourself with people chasing dreams, and you'll start running too, without even noticing." He leaned closer. "It's like catching an accent after living in a new place. You don't try. It just happens." The gardener's choice. Mr. Carter told him a story. "Years ago, I knew a young man named Jack. He wanted to start a business, but most of his friends were happy just collecting a paycheck. Every time Jack shared an idea, they'd laugh and say, 'Why risk it?' Eventually, he stopped talking about his plans, and then he stopped making them. Then Jack joined a small business group in town. People who were building things, failing, trying again. Their energy was contagious. Within 2 years, he'd launched his company. Same man, different soil." He tapped the bench. "You've got to choose your companions the way a gardener chooses soil for precious seeds. Some people will water your growth with encouragement. Others will drain you dry without meaning to. That doesn't make them bad, just wrong for your journey." Redesigning the room. Mr. Carter told Daniel to walk through his home and workspace with new eyes. Ask yourself, what behavior does each thing encourage? He gave examples. Does your bedroom invite restful sleep, or does it keep you scrolling your phone till midnight? Does your kitchen make healthy eating easy, or does it put junk food in reach? Do your friends push you to grow, or help you settle for less? Change the easy things first. He said, Move supportive tools into plain sight. Hide distractions where you can't get to them without effort. If you want to read more, keep a book where you'll see it. If you want to exercise, lay out your clothes the night before. The first storm. Daniel was about to ask a question when Mr. Carter's voice grew serious. But there's something else you must prepare for, the storm. You will fall. The question is how fast you get back up. Daniel thought about the times he'd set goals, only to abandon them for months after a setback. People think strength means never falling, Mr. Carter said. But true strength is rising quickly. The winners in life aren't the ones who avoid trouble. They're the ones who recover fast. A shop in trouble. Mr. Carter shared another story. I knew a man who ran a small repair shop. One day, his biggest customer left. In the past, he would have sulked for weeks. But this time, he had a recovery plan ready. He gave himself 1 day to rest. Then, the next morning, he followed the plan. 1. Check the shop's accounts. Point 2. Call other customers. Point 3. Hunt for new ones. Within 2 weeks, he replaced the lost business. The storm hit, but his boat was ready. Lifeboats before the rain. Wise people prepare their minds for trouble before it comes. Mr. Carter explained. They know which actions clear their head. They know which friends bring comfort without feeding despair. They choose small tasks that rebuild confidence. He gave Daniel a challenge. Make a list of 3 things that always help you think clearly. Make another list of people you can call who will encourage you. Keep those lists ready. That's your lifeboat. The power of acceptance. Recovery starts with accepting reality, Mr. Carter said. Not liking it, accepting it. The deal fell through. The injury happened. The relationship ended. That's not up for debate. Acceptance stops you from wasting energy fighting facts. Then you can turn toward what's next. He told Daniel to set a time limit for grief. Maybe 1 day to feel sorry for yourself, maybe 1 week. But when the time's up, you move. Otherwise, a temporary setback becomes a permanent home. Small steps to restart the engine. When you're knocked down, Mr. Carter said, big problems feel too heavy. So you start small. Clean your desk. Make 1 phone call. Do 1 task you can finish today. These steps may seem tiny, but they restart the engine of progress. He warned Daniel to choose advisors carefully. Avoid people who keep you stuck in anger. Find those who acknowledge your pain but point toward hope. The tree and the roots. Mr. Carter looked toward the hills beyond the market. Storms can be gifts. Sometimes losing one path forces you onto a better one. The job you lost may lead to work you love. The relationship that ended may clear the way for something stronger. And each time you rise after falling, you grow deeper roots. A tree that's never faced a storm might look healthy, but its roots are shallow. The storm-tested tree stands for decades. He smiled. Belief in yourself isn't something you're born with. You build it by proving to yourself, again and again, that you can handle life. Even small victories count. Write them down. Let them remind you of your strength. Daniel's next step. As the crowd in the market began to thin, Daniel felt the old man's words settle into him. He realized that while his mountain gave him direction, he still had weeds in his garden and no plan for the storms ahead. That night, he rearranged his apartment. The TV remote went in a drawer. A stack of books sat beside his bed. His running shoes waited by the door. He sent a message to an old college friend who was chasing big dreams, asking to meet for coffee. And before going to sleep, he wrote down his lifeboat list. The habits, people, and small tasks that would pull him back up the next time he fell. For the first time in years, Daniel wasn't afraid of the storm. He was planting the right soil and building a boat strong enough to sail through anything. Part 3. The inner compass. Ethan still remembered the night he almost quit. It was late, past midnight, and the city was asleep. His desk lamp cast a lonely circle of light on the scattered pages in front of him. Business notes, personal goals, and a long list of things that hadn't gone right. The clock ticked like a slow reminder that another day had slipped away. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of his own doubts. Maybe I'm not cut out for this, he thought. It was in that moment that he heard the voice of his mentor, Mr. Lawson, echo in his mind. Every success story begins with one stubborn belief that you can. Those words had been spoken to him months ago, but tonight, they felt like a lifeline. Ethan realized that if he surrendered now, it wouldn't be because the goal was impossible. It would be because he had let his own belief fade. Point 1. Self-belief. The quiet engine. The next morning, he met Mr. Lawson at their usual cafe. The old man was sipping black coffee, calm as ever. Ethan confessed his frustration, his exhaustion, and his fear that maybe he was chasing something too big. Lawson smiled. Ethan, self-belief is not about thinking you'll never fail. It's about knowing that failure is not the end. You are the captain of your mind. If you let storms decide your direction, you'll drift forever. But if you trust your compass, you'll always find your way back. Ethan felt those words sink in. Self-belief wasn't a loud cheerleader shouting in your head. It was a quiet engine, always running, always ready to push forward, even when the road looked impossible. 2. Time. The only equal gift. A week later, Ethan was sitting in his apartment, staring at a calendar. Days, weeks, months, all boxes waiting to be filled. That's when it struck him. Time was the only gift every person received in equal measure. No one could buy more of it, and no one could save it for later. Mr. Lawson had told him once, "The way you spend your hours will decide the way your years feel. Guard your minutes like treasure, and your future will guard you." From that day, Ethan stopped saying, "I don't have time." He replaced it with, "It's not a priority." And suddenly, the truth became clearer. Watching hours of meaningless content wasn't a priority. Complaining about circumstances wasn't a priority. Building his dream, that was the priority. He began scheduling his days with intention. Mornings were for deep work, afternoons for learning, evenings for reflection. He realized that when you don't control your time, someone else will. 3. Learning. The fuel for growth. Ethan also made another change. He became a student again. Not in a classroom, but in life. Every day, he spent at least 1 hour learning something new. It could be a book, an online course, or even a conversation with someone more experienced. He treated learning as non-negotiable. Mr. Lawson put it this way: knowledge is like compound interest. The more you invest, the more it multiplies. A small lesson today could save you years of mistakes tomorrow. Ethan began to notice something powerful. When he fed his mind, his confidence grew. Problems that once felt overwhelming now looked like puzzles. He wasn't just chasing his dream anymore. He was equipping himself to handle it. 4. Money. The servant, not the master. One evening, Ethan asked Mr. Lawson the question most people avoid. "How important is money, really?" The old man chuckled. "Money is like fire, Ethan. It can cook your meal or burn down your house. The difference is in who's controlling it." He explained that money should always serve a purpose, not be the purpose. Ethan learned to see money as a tool to buy freedom, not as a scorecard of worth. He created a simple rule: every dollar had to have a job, whether it was to grow his business, support his family, or invest in his future. By treating money with respect, not fear, he stopped making desperate choices. He understood that real wealth wasn't measured by how much you had, but by how little you needed to trade your peace for it. The turning point. Months passed, and Ethan's routine became his foundation. He woke with belief, guarded his time, fed his mind, and used money wisely. The small, daily choices began to compound, just like Mr. Lawson had promised. 1 Rainy afternoon, Ethan sat across from his mentor again. "You've changed," Mr. Lawson said. "Not because the world has given you what you wanted, but because you've become the kind of person who can create it." Ethan smiled. He knew now that success wasn't a single event. It was the result of thousands of moments when he chose belief over doubt, discipline over distraction, growth over comfort, and purpose over greed. Key lessons from Ethan's journey. 1. Self-belief is your inner compass. It points you forward even in storms. 2. Time is the only equal currency. Spend it with intention. 3. Learning keeps you sharp and adaptable. Be a lifelong student. 4. Money is a tool, not a master. Make it serve your life, not own it. Ethan's story was still unfolding, but one truth had become unshakable. The person you become in the process is far more valuable than the goal you achieve. Part 4. Protecting the golden hours. Nathan had learned how to believe in himself. He had learned to guard his thoughts, to master his emotions, and to choose his company with care. Now came the next challenge, mastering his hours. The old mentor had told him once, "The wealthiest man is not the one with the most gold, Nathan. It is the one who knows how to use his time." Those words had rolled around in Nathan's mind for months. At first, he thought the old man was just speaking about schedules and calendars. But he soon realized it was deeper than that. Time was more than a clock ticking on the wall. It was life itself, slipping away, second by second. And the most dangerous thief was not the stranger on the street, it was distraction. Nathan began to watch how people around him lived. He noticed that many gave their freshest, sharpest hours to things that didn't matter, arguing over small things, scrolling through idle chatter, chasing after every bit of noise. Then, when it came time to work on their dreams, they were tired, unfocused, and easily discouraged. He decided he would be different. He would protect his golden hours. Those first hours of the day when his mind was strongest. No idle gossip. No wandering through other people's business. No letting the day's emergencies take the wheel before his own mission had been served. At first, this was not easy. Friends would call early in the morning, asking for favors that could wait until later. Others teased him, saying, "You've changed, Nathan. You're no fun anymore." But Nathan smiled and stayed firm. He had learned that saying no to the wrong things was the same as saying yes to his future. One morning, while writing down his goals, he asked himself a question that cut straight to the truth. If I keep giving my best hours to small things, how can I expect big things to grow? The answer was clear. He couldn't. So he built a wall around his mornings. Not a wall of stone, but a wall of discipline. He would wake early, feed his mind before feeding his body, and put his most important work first. This habit became a quiet fortress. And inside that fortress, his dreams began to take root and grow stronger. As the weeks passed, Nathan also learned the power of active learning. He realized that life was changing quickly, and those who stopped learning started falling behind. The mentor told him, "What you know today can feed you for a while, but what you learn tomorrow can feed you for a lifetime." Nathan took this to heart. He began to study an hour each day, not just the work he was already good at, but also the skills that scared him. If he felt resistance to a subject, he leaned into it. He asked questions, took notes, and tested his ideas in small experiments. Sometimes he failed, but instead of feeling ashamed, he would write down what went wrong and try again. This cycle, act, reflect, grow, became a rhythm in his life. It kept him humble, but it also made him confident. He was no longer afraid of the unknown, because every challenge became an opportunity to learn. But Nathan knew there was one more battlefield to conquer: money. In his town, many believed that money was either the enemy or the ultimate goal. Nathan saw it differently. Money was simply a tool, powerful in the right hands, dangerous in the wrong ones. He made a vow to himself: "I will master money, so that it will never master me." The first step was to track every coin, not in a miserly way, but in a mindful way. He began to see patterns, small leaks in his spending, unnecessary purchases, money slipping away because of impulse. He closed those leaks. He learned to separate wants from needs, and luxuries from investments. The second step was to make money work for him. Instead of spending everything he earned, he set aside a portion to grow, whether through tools, books, or small ventures that brought in more income. Each dollar became a seed, and Nathan planted those seeds carefully. Soon, people began to notice the changes in him. Not just the improvement in his work, but the calmness in his face. He walked with a steady step, spoke with clarity, and never seemed rushed. He no longer chased every opportunity. He chose them. And when he chose, he committed fully. One afternoon, a younger man in the marketplace stopped him and asked, "How do you manage to get so much done, Nathan, and still have time for yourself?" Nathan smiled and said, "It's not about having more hours than you. It's about guarding the hours I already have. Most people trade their best hours for pennies. I invest mine into my purpose." The young man frowned, not fully understanding, but Nathan knew the truth would take root later, just as it had for him years before. By mastering his mornings, feeding his mind daily, and making his money serve his goals, Nathan had built something invisible but powerful, a foundation no storm could wash away. And as he stood on that foundation, he realized something profound. Success wasn't about luck, or talent, or even opportunity. It was about discipline in the small things, repeated every day. The world often praised the man who worked late into the night, burning himself out for a dream. But Nathan had learned the wiser way. Work deeply in your strongest hours, grow in knowledge daily, and let money be your servant, not your master. By the end of that season, Nathan's life looked entirely different from when he began. But the real change was inside. He no longer feared running out of time, knowledge, or resources, because he had learned how to multiply all three. The old mentor, now proud and quiet in his approval, simply said, "You have learned to master your days, Nathan. Soon you will learn to master your years." Nathan smiled. He knew the journey was far from over, but with each sunrise, he was no longer chasing life. He was building it, hour by hour, lesson by lesson, choice by choice. If you'd like, I can go ahead and write part 5, continuing Nathan's journey into the final mastery stage, where he learns to lead and influence others without losing his inner peace. That would set up a strong bridge to the conclusion of the series. Do you want me to continue? Part 5. The shadow in the alley. Rosa stayed hidden in the back room of the tailor shop for 3 days. Senor Castillo brought her food and water, and once a night, his wife came in to pray with her. But every time Rosa closed her eyes, she saw Lupe's smile, and the shadow behind it. The city outside was restless. Carriages rattled down the streets, soldiers patrolled more often, and whispers of women disappearing spread through the market stalls. On the 4th morning, Senor Castillo said quietly, "Rosa, you can't stay here forever. La Temible's eyes are everywhere." Rosa nodded, but she felt heavy inside. She had survived only because she had run. What about the other girls? That evening, she left the shop dressed as a delivery girl. She carried a basket filled with bread to make herself look harmless. Senor Castillo's wife kissed her cheek and pressed a small rosary into her hand. "For protection," she said. The empty streets. It was late, and most shops had closed. The sun had dipped below the rooftops, leaving the streets in shadow. Rosa kept her head down, her shawl pulled tight. She had one goal: reach the safe house Senor Castillo had told her about, a place where women who escaped La Temible could hide. But as she turned a corner, she heard footsteps. Slow. Even. Following. Rosa's heart pounded. She sped up, the basket bumping against her hip. The footsteps quickened too. She turned down a narrow alley, thinking she could lose them. The walls closed in, and the smell of damp brick filled her nose. The shadow appears halfway through the alley. She stopped. A tall figure stood at the other end, blocking the exit. The dim light caught the shine of a black hat, the kind the city police wore. But Rosa knew the man wasn't police. He was one of them. One of La Temible's collectors. The man stepped forward slowly. His voice was calm, almost polite. "Senorita, you've been missed." Rosa's grip tightened on the basket handle. "You don't know me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. He smiled faintly. "I know enough. You were in the house on Calle de la Ronda, the one who ran." A desperate move. Rosa's chest tightened. She couldn't let him take her. She looked at the bread in her basket, then at the rosary in her hand. Her mind raced. "If you know me," she said, taking a step forward, "then you know I'm not afraid of you." The man laughed softly. You should be. When he stepped closer, Rosa hurled the basket at his face. Bread rolled onto the cobblestones. In the second he raised his arm to block, she grabbed the loose brick from the wall beside her and swung it hard. It hit his shoulder. He shouted in pain, and Rosa ran. Through the market she burst out of the alley into the back of the market district. A few night vendors were packing up their stalls. The smell of roasted corn and burnt sugar clung to the air. She darted between carts, knocking over a stack of crates. Behind her, she heard the man shouting for her to stop. She didn't stop. She kept running until her lungs burned. Finally, she spotted a wooden door with no sign, just as Señor Castillo had described. She pounded on it 3 times. A small window slid open, and a pair of tired eyes looked out. Who sent you? Señor Castillo, Rosa gasped. Please, let me in. The door opened quickly, and she stumbled inside. The safe house, the room smelled of candle wax and herbs. Several women sat on benches along the walls, their faces pale, their eyes distant. An older woman with streaks of silver in her hair stepped forward. You're safe here, child, she said, guiding Rosa to a chair. Rosa clutched the rosary so tightly her fingers ached. Safe, for now, she whispered. The older woman's expression grew grim. No one is truly safe while La Temible walks these streets. The story of La Temible that night, over a bowl of thin soup, Rosa listened as the older woman told her what she knew. La Temible was not just a cruel woman. She was protected. Wealthy men, corrupt police, even certain priests turned their faces away from her crimes. She began as a street thief, but over time, she learned the power of fear. Some said she believed in dark blessings, that she wore charms made from the bones of her enemies. Others whispered she could not die until she had taken the lives of 100 women. Is that true? Rosa asked. The woman shook her head. Truth or not, it doesn't matter. Fear gives her power, and people believe the stories. That's enough to keep her in control. A plan forms. Rosa lay awake on the thin cot, the sounds of the city drifting through the cracks in the window. She thought of Lupe. She thought of the man in the alley. She thought of all the girls who had not escaped. If La Temible was protected by fear, then someone had to break that fear. Rosa didn't know how, but she felt a spark in her chest, a small, stubborn fire. She could not hide forever. The next morning, she asked the older woman, if I wanted to fight her, where would I start? The woman gave her a long, searching look. You'd start by staying alive. The message that afternoon, a boy came to the safe house with a message for Rosa. He was no older than 12. With quick eyes and bare feet. He handed her a folded piece of paper. No name. Just a few words. I know where she keeps them. Meet me at the fountain at midnight. Rosa's stomach tightened. She didn't know if it was a trap, but the chance to know where La Temible kept her captives was too important to ignore. She tucked the note into her dress and prepared herself. If it was a trap, she would face it. If it was real, she might finally have a way to strike back. Either way, Rosa knew one thing. She would not run again. To be continued.